European, only circles. But you can still tell where it's going. And notice it's right. Everybody is pretty much. The Canadian here is out in left field a little bit. So we'll keep that in mind, but that's not normally one of the models that we look at closely. And the red here is the consensus. That's normally the one the Hurricane Center uses. So this one gives us a little bit of pause. That's the American hurricane model. But generally, this is what we're looking at. The red, it's staying offshore, but it's coming close. Concerning.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, here's the wave thing, which is, gives you an idea of the energy in the water. And this matches up with what your forecast was, Betty, because Sunday afternoon, you notice we're in the greens here, all on the South Florida coast. The greens or even some blues, which is not much energy in the water at all. Here it comes Monday morning. Look at the energy from the storm. Now, remember the wind, probably 15, 20 foot, 25-foot waves off our coast.
Wave action you don't want to be in.
Right, and you don't have, nobody's going to be boating. Now, this is about storm surge. And to me, this is the most difficult thing to explain. This is not a forecast of 1 to 3 feet. This is a kind of worst case, right?
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. So what we should be ready for, the possibility of up to 3 feet on the Broward County coast of water above land. Now, as you all know, at the beach in Fort Lauderdale, sometimes that water gets up high. It doesn't threaten anybody. It can be a couple of feet above the beach, and it's a beach problem, but it's not a people problem, although it could be a problem for people that live on the canals, if you're low lying. So just bear that in mind. That's the sort of maximum level. But Palm Beach and north, notice they have a 3 to 6 foot possibility there. It's not a forecast, it's a possibility. That's why, though, they're not taking chances and they're getting people off the coastal islands.
Right, because you think about how the winds will be blowing in relation to Dorian and how it's moving.
Right.
And
so you have a combination of possibility of hurricane force winds and water that high.
Yeah.
They don't want people staying in low-lying areas. Right. But here, not that it's not going to cause a lot of beach erosion, be a problem. It's a different scale of problem. And one last thing, and that's the direction of the wind. I think this is important for us.
It is, and you got this question a lot about the king tide and if the wind flow, if Dorian's winds would exacerbate that, maybe piling that water at the coastline. But it's all in the direction of the wind, and it's a good thing in terms of the direction the winds are going to go for those vulnerable areas along the east coast of Broward and Miami-Dade. Offshore flow, so northwest to west wind, no surge for the east coast.
Right, so no storm surge from the ocean, but when you have this kind of wind in Biscayne Bay and it's strong, if it gets strong enough, it's pushing water toward the west side of Biscayne Bay. It's pushing it toward Miami Beach, right? I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but it could elevate the water beyond the king tide a little bit on the east side of Biscayne Bay, on the Miami Beach side of Biscayne Bay, on Key Biscayne, and something like that, because you're getting this push of water coming in from the west. It's not going to be a huge push of water this far south, and you don't have that issue because you don't have any big body of water anymore in Fort Lauderdale near the coast. They filled it all in, made islands for nice houses there now, but there used to be water up there as well. In the Keys, a little different. In the Keys, this wind from the west or west-northwest is pushing water into Florida Bay, into that east end of the bay, up here around Key Largo, where we have people living on the bay. So there is some concern, so we should be staying in close touch with the Miami National Weather Service in Key West or the local authorities there about your particular area, because that water will be elevated.
Hopefully the winds won't be that strong.
Right, but it's farther away, but it's over the water, so you get stronger winds over the water. And then down to the south here, you have all these winds, in this case, going with the Gulf Stream, because the Gulf Stream comes up out of the Caribbean, it goes this way. And then remember that Irma is pushing against the Gulf Stream this way. So
Dorian.
That can, what is this?
Dorian.
Dorian.
Irma.
I'm living in the past. Dorian is pushing against the Gulf Stream this way, so they have that conflict in the Gulf Stream, and that really gets a lot of turbulence. So just anybody that does any boating, it's called a confused sea, and it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And the Florida Bay flooding, possible with a question mark in this east end, and dangerous seas offshore. All right, so you're going to be back and talk about the local weather, right?
Local things that are happening out there. We've already got those gusty downpours
Right.
sweeping across parts of South Florida, even as that center, the eye of Dorian, is well placed away from us, slowly moving westward. But we're going to deal with those tropical downpours from time to time. So I'll show you what's on the Doppler radar now, and we'll talk more specifics about the tropical storm watch in Broward and the kinds of winds that are possible. All right, guys.
All right, Betty and Brian, thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you, of course.
And as you all know at home, or if you're just joining us, our Janice Fernandez is in Marsh Harbor, Bahamas. Earlier in the day, when we first got out here a couple of hours ago, we had a conversation with her over the phone. We are going to replay that for you. Right now, Janice is safe. She's in her safe zone in her bunker, so she is not out in the middle of the storm. We're just going to replay our conversation with Betty and Brian and Janice over the phone.
You're calling Calvin right now. We are in the eye, so we do have a few moments where we can talk with you. And I have to tell both of you that I have never seen anything like this in my life. The damage we are seeing right now is outstanding. It is astonishing, really. I can tell you that one of the roofs from the hotel blew off during the storm. The awning in which we were doing live shots earlier this morning has completely collapsed. So thank goodness Brandon told us to get out when we did, because shortly after we did, it completely collapsed. We rode out the storm in the bunker room, actually in a fitness center that was right next to the bunker room, and the door was not able to stay shut. We had to hold on to the door for about 10 minutes because if we let go, it would have blown off, but we were able to get a wire to tie it down. What I'm seeing right now, the storm surge is significant. There's so much water right now that it has taken over some tiki huts that were on the beach. It has also taken over a part of the hotel. Near the restaurant where we have been eating dinner is now underwater. The docks are underwater as well. Some of the balconies have blown off. Some of the balconies are hanging on by a thread, and I'm sure when we get this second round, sort of the tail end of the eye, I don't think these balconies are really going to make it. Brian and I have not been able to get inside our rooms, so we don't know the damage inside our rooms in terms of flooding. I tried to walk upstairs to my room, and there was so much debris covering the hallway, and the wind was also very strong. I couldn't really quite make it there. There was a truck as well that was parked about 20 feet away, and then the storm pushed it all the way up. And like I said, the damage is like something I've never seen before, and this is just at our resort. I don't even know what the rest of the island looks like. Calvin and Nicole, one thing I really want to let you guys know and everyone at the station know is that Brian and I are okay. I believe they're watching right now, but because
But the worst of it is not over, right, Brian?
Right, Janice. So I want to be sure that everyone there is aware that when this comes, it's going to come from the other direction completely. So you had mostly winds out of the north before. Now they're going to come mostly out of the south. So, you know, what kept you safe before is not going to keep you safe this time, because the wind is going to come from the other direction. So when we've had people injured in hurricanes in the past, quite often it's come because they haven't realized the danger is going to come from the other way. So if you could be sure for yourself and for Brian and for everybody at the hotel that they know you kind of got to get to the other side of the strong parts of the structure, so that you have as many walls as you can between you and the south direction as opposed to the north direction. Does that make sense, Janice?
No, yes, it does. Actually, Brian, my photographer, Brian, is aware of that. He's like this. He actually told me, though, he's never seen one this horrible, but inside this room, because they just don't know if the other structures are going to hold up, because we do know the second part of it is going to be just as bad. So we are prepared for that, and we're just really hoping for the best, but we are staying safe. One thing a little here is that the generator also has power, but our cell service is down as well as the internet, and that's why we're talking to all of you right now, and we're very happy we're able to get in contact with all of you to let you know that we're okay, and of course let our families know that we're okay.
All right, Janice, is the water we see in the video that we have, and we know that's not your video right now, but we see the water is very, very high. And I know your hotel is elevated, but how high are you above the ocean water that's pushed in over much of Marsh Harbor and that surrounding area?
You know, I don't know how high we are in comparison. Right now I'm sort of standing on what looks like a hill, but the little beach that they had on the back of the resort, we kept watching it all morning. The water just inching closer and closer, and it took over the whole beach. So it took over the sand, and now it's taking over the grass. We reached the hill that we're in. So we're feeling pretty confident in that aspect, but there's still a lot of water coming in from other areas. The hallway, even on the second floor, sort of looks like a running river. So there's still a lot of water coming in different directions, not just from the beach side. So that's definitely a concern. There's some not really flooding inside the bunker room, but we could definitely see some water seeping in, and there's some leaks as well. So we're really going to have to monitor it, and this is going to be one of the forms that we really can't rest. We're going to have to stay vigilant. We're going to have to stay up, because anything changes, we're going to have to make some quick moves.
Right, because here's the thing, is that water that's coming down the stairs, that's not going to hurt you. That's fresh water, that's from flooding, that's from something accumulated on the roof, break something in the building. The water that is dangerous is the water that's coming up from the ground. Now, it's going to switch around. So in Marsh Harbor there, you have that harbor, and you have that sort of open facing from the north. But when it switches around, the water is going to come from a completely different direction, have a different character to it because the shorelines are different there. So just be sure, if you can be in a safe place that gives you the ability to get to a stairwell to get up. You know, it's not going to be a tidal wave that washes over the building or something, but it could be rising salt water, and you just need to be sure that you know you're not stuck in a room that has no way to get out in case that happens, so you can get to a stairwell.
Brian, how long would you say she might have until the back part of that eye wall starts to get to her? Maybe an hour, 20 minutes or so?
So the eye, and then the back end of the eye, and the storm, if you see the radar on your television, is actually more in looks like on that radar, because that's